Mike McCool here. I'm in the Royal Examiner studio, and I have the pleasure today to talk to Betty Kilby Fisher Baldwin. There you go. Earlier we talked to your brother, James, and he told us about how you were daddy's favorite, and you said until your sister came along.
Correct.
And kind of got him to file the lawsuit to desegregate our school system. And you were telling me that the case was, tell me the case name?
The case was Betty Ann Kilby versus the Warren County Board of Education.
So you were the first Kilby then to go to the integrated school.
James, John, and me, all three of us was on the petition, but all three of us went. It was 21 kids that went to Warren County. That was the first ones.
Well, it's a lot has happened since then.
A lot has happened. When I came to Front Royal for the march, and I saw the crowd of people from diverse backgrounds, it was like I just sat in awe.
You got goosebumps too? I mean, it kind of surprises. James said it kind of shocked him, surprised him, but in a good way.
It shocked me too, because when Gene called me and told me that he was going to speak, I didn't wait for him to say, "Hey, I need for you to come with me." I said, "Oh, I'm coming with you." And I said, "Well, what is Jimmy doing?" And he said, "Well, Jimmy said he can't walk in the parade." I said, "Well, let me call Jimmy." So I called him. And I said, "This is one time that the three of us need to go together." Because I had all kinds of anticipation of violence and ugliness. And I thought that it would be good for all three of us to be there together.
You wanted your two brothers to protect you. That's what you were thinking.
Oh, no. See,
or the other way around.
I needed to go to protect them. Yeah, so
that's what I've heard.
Yeah. So, it's like I've been on this battleground for a long time. Jimmy has been on this battleground for a long time. But we just kind of operate in a different sphere. For a long time, I didn't know any fear. I would walk through the gates of hell and not be afraid.
Just daring people to cross you. I can just see that now. I dare you.
Not so
in a
much.
mean way, but in your mind, you were saying.
But that eventually got me in trouble, and it eventually got me in trouble in high school. In this story here, today I'm not that same little girl that was in that I wrote about. Because I've overcome.
Sounds like a great thing. The title of this book is Wit, Will, and Walls.
Correct.
So what's the focus here?
Daddy used to, when we got into a real heavy situation, like when shots was being fired at the house, and he would holler, "Gunfire, hit the floor." We'd all be on the floor, laying down, just petrified, scared. And Daddy would say, "Pray for me while you're down there." And all of a sudden, it broke the fear. So that was the wit that he used to help us to capture that fear. The will, you can see it on our faces, on the cover of this book. The cover was taken by Life magazine on September the 15th, 1958. That was also the day that the schools closed in Warren County, was September the 15th, 1958. And he told us, he said, "We are about to make history. This is no laughing matter." And so, therefore, that picture came from that.
You can see it in your eyes.
Right. It's the sheer determination.
Right.
And we had already come up on a solid background because we were brought up in the church. We were brought up believing that if God be for you, then
who can be
against you? And the walls were the things that we encountered. And so thus it became Wit, Will,
So
and
looking
Walls.
back, have you done something different?
No. When I was selling books and the the first white guy that came up and apologized, I didn't know what to say. Usually when somebody apologizes, oh, it's my pleasure, thank you.
Sure.
And you're very humble and gracious. It brought tears to my eyes in the first place. And so I figured that this was going to be a part of this journey that I was going to be on. And being brought up in the church, we were not religious to the degree that people talk about religious people, where they're religious on Sunday and everything. We lived God, and we put God in our lives. And so it was a time to talk to God that night. And when I got up the next morning, and the very next time somebody apologized for what I went through, I was able to say that was God's journey for me. Because I knew that for some reason, this was all a part of God's plan. And even when I walked in and I saw that crowd on Friday night, and I had kind of come to the conclusion, I'm 75 now. I'm ready to quit. I'm ready to hand the reins over to the next generation.
And you felt like there was hope that there's going to be somebody to turn the reins over to.
Well, there are people that I've got a grandson. He's in school right now. He's writing, and he's there standing for the next generation. I've got a daughter out in California who's working for the Academy. She's written a screenplay on that story. That's my future.
There you go.
So I thought it was time for me to stop. But I've written another book. And the next book that I've written is going to be called Cousins. And that's where I'm living Dr. Martin Luther King's dream, where the sons of former slaves and the former slaveholders have come to the table of brotherhood. And my white cousin and I have come to the table of brotherhood. And we have written a book together that will be coming out in March of 2021. So the Lord has said to me, it ain't time for you to stop.
I was going to say, you can't quit yet.
No, I can't quit yet. So
Maybe when you're 85, you can quit.
So I know that there is more work for me to do. And I sat pleasantly listening to my brother Gene talk. And we just buried our mother recently, and my daddy had given him the challenge of taking care of my mother. And so he said, well, I don't know why Daddy picked me. Daddy picked you because you were the youngest. He knew that we were going to get old way before before the rest of us got old.
Now, that's the 68-year-old brother.
That's the 68.
I know how old he is.
Yeah, so... But there is more work for me to do. And I don't think that my daddy worked right up until he believed and he had the passion in his heart of African Americans succeeding and being the best and not being held back because of the color of their skin.
And that's going to be brought about by education.
That is being brought about by education. And this book that my white cousin and I are we're working on right now as we speak, all the proceeds from that book is going toward the descendants of the slaves that this white family had enslaved. And it's my great grandmother Juliet Kilby, and it will be all of her descendants. So I think that that's very profound. So
sure.
It follows the Kilby legacy of education. But when I worked with my grandbabies in going to school, if you're not an A student, if you're not at the top, if you're not in the top 10%, there's very little money for you. And financial aid only takes you so far. Now, this grandson that I talked about, mm-hmm. He went to a 2-year college. He calls himself, I'm following in my Meemaw's footsteps because I got an associate's degree, then I got a bachelor's degree, then I got my master's degree, and I ended up speaking at Shenandoah University, and I got my doctor's degree.
There you go.
So he's talking about following into Meemaw's footsteps. Well, he's finished his first degree. But when we look at what it's going to cost to get the second degree, it's going to take a whole lot of creativity to
A whole
make
lot of
that,
book sales
to make that happen. Well, this book is out of print. The next book is for all of the descendants of Juliet Kilby.
When that movie's made,
When that movie is made,
there's your college funds.
We still working on that, and still
That's going to be the Betty Kilby Fisher Baldwin Foundation.
Well, you know what? We have.
We'll have to abbreviate that
We
name
have
a little
we
bit.
have a foundation. The scholarships goes through the Poise Foundation, but the money, it comes through a foundation that has been established by the Kilby family called A Common Grace.
Well, the Kilby family is well known in the Warren County area. I'm sure that good and bad, but just because of determination. I mean, I think that's
yes.
probably the one word that you can, if you had to put a word on it, you can't argue with the determination that your dad had, and whether people liked him or not didn't matter. But he was determined, and I think that I don't know if anybody really didn't like it. Well.
Yeah, there were lots of people that didn't like him.
Well, and a lot of that because they didn't like the color of his skin. But,
No,
you don't think that what it was? No, talk about Jimmy. I call that about Jimmy. He's talking about them. He's giving me these stories about killing your cows and how the daddy was out there. So I can imagine that had a lot to do with it back then.
When I did a presentation at Samuel's Library back between 2003 and 2007, this one lady got up, and it was during the question and answer period, and she said, "We hated your father." And I'm standing up there, and I'm wondering, oh, my Lord, what's going to happen next? And then she said, "But what he did was necessary." She said that he messed up everybody's life and everybody's livelihood because we had gone on a certain way for a long period of time.
Yep.
And people wanted desegregation to happen slowly.
It doesn't work that way.
We had already tried that. We had
Right.
tried that with separate but equal. And they never fixed things. They continued to try to hoodwink African Americans. Yeah, we didn't have a whole lot of education, but we weren't stupid.
You know what's we're doing? People know inherently what's right and wrong. We know that. We know that inherently. That we know what's right and wrong. We don't have to be told. We know.
We know what's right or wrong, but we create our own myths within our mind.
Right, exactly.
And those myths keep everybody from moving forward. Mm-hmm. And so, my daddy lost land. He had been given 24 acres of land. And his daddy took him to court because old man Dick Finks, who was the white man, told him to. And so he did, and my daddy lost land. And Daddy knew that if we didn't get an education, we would always be the losers. And a high school education wasn't enough to move us forward. And so that's why he was willing to risk everything. Because we might as well had just curled up and died if we couldn't get an education and we couldn't fight this battle that is ahead of us. These young folks today, I mean, the ones that I saw in the streets, I hope and pray that they continue and they keep on marching forward. Because this right now is not a black man's battle. This is a every man's battle. Anytime you can choke the life out of a person with your bare hands and the world sees it, we're in for a change.
And nothing happens.
And nothing happens.
On this case, I think things that did happen. I think people seen this event and it woke up a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, you see all the people that are coming forward now and said, this is what happened to my son, but I didn't have any evidence of that.
Exactly.
I knew it happened, but I couldn't prove it. So I had to just suffer. I heard this mother, I had to just suffer for the past 10 years, knowing what happened and not being able to do a thing. And now this new generation with these cell phones.
Well, that's right. There's video everywhere now.
Video everywhere.
Yeah. There's no expectation of privacy in the world today.
No expectation, and that's a good thing, because now we can take the covers off of all this dirt that has been happening for years.
Well, even the police now have got their body cams on. They fought that for a while, but now they're looking at it and saying, this is a good thing for us to have it. I mean, it's worked out in favor of both sides of the coin, and the police are saying now, I won't go out without my body cam.
But what about those gaps in it? When they cut
that
when
18 minutes missing there.
When they cut it off, and then they think you will never see it.
No.
But there's always somebody out there,
there's always somebody.
I think that we're living now in a culture where people aren't going to see somebody kill somebody like a dog and just let it go.
Yeah. I think we are now our culture. If you see something, say something.
Correct.
I think we're seeing that in all the way across our country. I think that's pretty much the message that we have. So going forward now, we know you're writing a book, and you're gonna. What are we gonna expect from you other than the? You said you travel around the country now in your RV and seeing all your relatives. So I know you got something planned. Post COVID-19 anyway, so
I have no idea.
Wherever the Lord leads you,
it's wherever the Lord leads me. I was ready to bank on being 75 and just sliding right on through the rest.
It doesn't happen, does it?
The rest of the time, but I don't believe that's what's going to happen.
I'm sure that when you're called, you hear my Lord, send me. I think that's your motto. I think.
No, I would be saying, Lord, is there any other way?
Is there any?
Can we get one of these young
folks? You sound like
folks?
Moses, right? You're going to be like Moses. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you get one of these young folks prepared?
Yeah, and he said, just like you. Well, I'm not a good speaker. Well, I'm going to give you Aaron. So that's what's happening. You're not getting out of it. That's what
when I wrote that book. I wrote it, I published it because I didn't want it changed. I didn't want it sensationalized. I wanted it raw from my mouth to your ears. And so I didn't realize that after I wrote the book, that the next phase was selling the book. And that was, I thought writing was hard, but the selling was harder.
Yep.
And the first time that I did a TV interview, and I had sent the book out, they had read the book, and he said, he said, these are the things we're going to talk about. And he said, we're going to talk about the rape. And I said, oh, no, we can't do that. And for the first year, I would not let anybody ask me that question about being raped in the high school. Because I couldn't do it. And, one of the news reporters sat down and he said, look, you gave me this book. I'm going to talk about it. So you're going to have to step up to the plate. And then I realized the job that I had was more difficult than I wanted to take on. But I took it on because you can't tell half a story and be credible. You have to tell the whole story. And so that when I was in Germany promoting my book, and the lady she was working at Shenandoah then, and she called me about doing the documentary. And so I thought, oh man, now we get the documentary. I won't have to tell this story anymore, and I won't have to answer these questions that just kind of breaks me down. And little did I know, I still had to do it. And so I got over that. I got over it.
These are the struggles we have in life is what molds us into the person we're going to be in the future. And I think, and how we adapt to it and how we use it will be good or bad. I mean, I think we need to take and build on it. Even the bad things that happen to us can build us into a strong person, which is what's happened to you. I can see that.
Well, I was telling God, I'm as strong as I ever want to be. I don't want to be no more. I don't want to be strong anymore. I want to have fun with life. I want to be like everybody else.
How'd that work out for you?
It didn't work out really well because I was writing with each chapter that we wrote. We turned it in to the publicist. And this one chapter that I am rewriting right now, and I knew that God put a pause in it because he wanted me to write about today. And so the publicist says, I told her all about my trip to Germany and how we had a good time and how we went to the bullfight. And she said, that's all well and good. But she cut that whole section out. And it left this whole section of what's going on today to be able to write about it and put that.
See how things work out?
God is an awesome God. And he knows the end when we're stuck at the beginning. And he just works it right on out.
I like the bumper sticker that says, "Man plans and God's laughs."
Yes, because I've heard him laugh a whole lot during my lifetime. When I said, "What?"
Well, there's a will, there's a way. I think
Yes.
that God's made a way for you.
Yes, he
Well,
has.
I really appreciate it, Betty, you coming in and talking to us. Anything in particular you want to leave with? A word of wisdom.
I just say, watch out, world,
Here I come.
because a change is about to come.
Yeah.
And it's coming from these young people. And it's not coming from African Americans alone. It's coming from a whole diverse group of people. And I left this book and these tapes so that I can arm them with some truths about the past. It's not sugar-coated at all. As little fellas say, it's raw.
Open your eyes and see it.
Open your eyes and see it. Right. And know that this is what some people are fighting for. And this just didn't start today. It started well over 50 years ago with somebody left to tell the story. So.
50 years in our lifetime seems like a long time, but 50 more years, ahead of us. They'll be fighting some battle. I just hope it's not this one.
The young man that's 26 years ago,
Right.
26 years
Mr.
old.
Samuel Porter. Yeah.
Mr. Samuel Porter. I can imagine that he can look back and say, I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah. I can look in his eyes and I can see 50 years down the road he'll be fighting a fight on something.
Well, because when I think about when I was 26,
you never thought you'd make it to 75, though, did you?
At 17, I prayed for God to take me, because this life was too hard, the journey was too hard, and the sacrifices was too hard. Yeah, you're right. I never thought.
And God said, "My grace is sufficient for you."
Yes, by all means. Yes.
God's word works.
It definitely
Worked in your life.
It works in your life. It works in your life. It works in your life.
Whether you want it to or not.
Whether you believe or not.
That's right. Yeah.
Or
Ooh, I'm
whether
getting
you want
goosebumps.
or whether you want it to or not. It definitely works.
Right.
Well,
I think that's a good note to leave on. God is good.
All the time.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Betty. I really appreciate it, and we'll be seeing you here in the future real soon, I'm sure.
Oh, okie dokie.
All right.
Do you have my let me
I
see.
do right there.
The address is wrong.
Well, we'll get it.
I'll
get that from
The
Jimmy.
cell phone is right.
You're just going to walk right out of the middle of the interview?
Oh, I thought you told me.
No,
Oh, excuse me.
see how she controls the whole situation. Jimmy told me to watch you.
We'll put that those documentaries up on our
We'll do
website
that.
so that we can.
All right. Again, thanks again. Appreciate you coming in.
Oh,
Thank you.